Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of Paint with Sean. So today we are picking up where we left off. Last week we started this real dark, stormy looking sky, and we've got a good background going on. We've got a little bit of start of some clouds, so we're just kind of getting some initial indicators, and going to continue down with a nice sunset as we come in. So again, we've got this real dark going on, and I just want to adjust some of this because, as you can see, it's real flat looking. So I've got some of that same color of paint that we were working with last time, and I'm just going to bring this up a little bit in the sky. Okay, so I just want to have a couple of sort of connecting pieces that bring it up and make it just a little more dynamic in structure than just one little piece going on right there. So we'll just add a little bit in there. Getting some color on there is great, but then in the background I really want to just kind of blend this out. Okay, so I've got my brush has a little bit of water on it, so you want to make sure your brush is nice and dry when you go to blend. Okay, so I'm just gonna bring this up in little circular motions. Okay, we really want to leave that bottom edge nice and solid there, so we can see where the light is reflecting off of it. Okay, so I just want to come down here and touch, and sort of bring some of those indicators up in here that the clouds are fluffy and swirling around and doing their thing. Bring this a little more blendy in here. That's a term, blendy. You can make whatever terms you want when you're out here doing your painting. So I don't like the blend on that, so I'm going to grab just a tad bit of the dark color here. It's kind of a blend between the black and the blue. And I'm going to blend some of that in just to kind of soften this up here, because I want this to be a little bit farther away looking. And this is the magic of painting, guys. If you don't like it, you can just paint over it. So I really want that kind of soften up in there. Alright, so let's get a little more color going on down here, because I like the areas where we've got the yellow on the orange, and you can really see that distinct place where the light would hit. Okay, so I'm just gonna grab a tad bit more of the yellow and just dab the very bottom edges of our clouds. Okay, and again, this creates a real distinct area at the bottom, but these little tiny bits of yellow. Okay, it doesn't take much for it to pop. Alright, and if it's too much on there, I'll just take the corner of this and blend it up a little bit. I really don't want this to get too bright. So just a little bit is all you need. Okay, just that little bit there. And the more center to the page, the brighter I want this to be. Okay, so I'm use a little bit more right here in the middle. And you can vary the angles of how you hold the brush just to get it a little bit less even. Mine are fairly even pieces. I just want to blend these just a little bit. Just soften them up a little, because they are clouds. They don't typically have hard edges that are on fire, but this one's really going to look that way because of what we've got going on here. So I just want to soften this up a little bit more on the top. And depending on how thick your paint is when you put it on, it may dry very quickly. So you have to be prepared to work with the conditions of your painting. Okay, I just want to soften this edge so you can't really see that there's different color. And as they dry, they kind of blend together a little bit more. So loving the texture of the underneath of the clouds, because typically when you see clouds, they're sort of over the top, where the hard part is at the top, and then the bottoms are kind of fluffy. So this is a little bit different layering technique. So we're gonna have the light coming from the bottom, and that's really gonna indicate that there's some sunset going on. So I just want to sort of blend these in a little bit so they're not just hard colors working on each other. Okay. So as we get out here to the edge, we're going to start to sort of get into some lighter color. So some of this may be covered up a little bit, and then we can kind of come back over. And again, you want to do whatever's farthest away from you first and then come forward. So that's why we put the dark sky on there and then kind of working back towards ourselves here. So I do like to sort of break up some of these outlines. The more overlaps you have, the more dynamic the clouds really look. Okay, if everything is sort of on the same layer, it doesn't have much depth look to it. Okay, so we've got a little bit of clouds going on, not too bad. And let's start to put some bottom color in here. So I really want to create a very strong yellow that comes up to some of the bottoms of these clouds. So I'm just going to wash off my dirty brush here and get a majority of this orange color out of it. Okay, and it doesn't really matter how clean your water is. If you've got dirty water, as long as you're moving it around and you get the majority of the paint off, you may even still have a little bit on there. You can just sort of wipe it on your trusty little paper towel, and I tend to fold it over and kind of pull it through, and you can get a fairly clean brush. It doesn't have to be perfect. Getting the water content off is a big piece of this, because again, it will change the thickness of your paint. Okay, so I'm going to move to a little bit smaller brush so we can get a little more detail work going on. So I've got this sort of in-between brush here. I don't know what you call these. I'm not a brush mechanic, so I do like to get a little bit of water on this though, just to sort of kind of gathers the hairs back together so they can get kind of frayed out and fluffy and stuff. I don't want it to be wet, but I want it to get together. Okay, so I'm going to use just a tad bit of this orange color on the brush, just so it's not completely stark yellow. Very rarely in nature do we see pure color. It's almost always a variation of some. Okay, so I'm just kind of mixing a very light orange. Okay, so almost a color there. All right, and so we're going to come across this, and this is really where you got to get brave, because this is sort of the bottom edge of where your clouds are going to show up. Okay, and again, I want this to be sort of flat so it stays fairly thin on the line that I'm creating, but I don't want it to be like a, you know, straight line kind of thing. All right, so we're just going to bring this up into the cloud here, and it will be very, very distinct. Okay, and then as we move over here and we get a little bit less, I want this to just kind of fade off. All right, so these are the difference makers. I know this doesn't look like the best clouds sometimes when you're just starting out. It's like, wow, this is just a bunch of random marks. But then when you start to add in these little details, these little highlights, okay, and you can see I'm just going to go over the top a little bit. We're going to get a little bit of distinction up in here. Okay, and it doesn't have to connect everywhere. Okay, these can really be sort of uneven pieces that being highlighted by the sunlight underneath. Okay. Okay, so you can start to see how putting some color on there and just adding a tad bit of highlight or a tad bit of low light can immediately change the depth and the variation of what your painting looks like. Okay, so I'm just going to throw a little bit of highlights under here. I don't want not too much. Okay. If everything is highlighted, nothing is highlighted. So we really want to make sure we're just using this here and there. But I really want this bottom to be nice and yellow. Okay. I really want that to be the solid piece where that light is coming in. Okay, and I'm just getting a little bit of this yellow and a tinge of the orange, so it's not too solid, but it's definitely a lighter color. And I got one hairs keep coming out of my brush, so you don't want to have that individual hair. It'll take over. Okay, so just little bits here and there. Okay, those are the pieces that tend to stand out. And as you get out towards the outside, again, you remember you want this to be darker farther away from the light source. Okay, so farther away you get from this center piece where we want our light source to be right here, we want it to get lighter and lighter. All right, so as we get farther up the cloud set and farther to the outsides, it's going to get lighter. So I'll just add a little bit more of this orange color to my yellow, and that will kind of darken it. Not lighter, darker. You guys knew what I was talking about. Okay, so I'm just going to add a little bit of these underneath pieces. Okay, so as we're coming out, we want this to just sort of fade out to nothing. Okay, I'm going to grab my blending brush and just blend that out just a little bit. Okay, good. Nice and light, just little hints of edge. That's what creates that depth. Okay, that little bit right there that overlaps. There we go. A little bit up here. Those little overlaps, that's what makes it. So, sorry if I get quiet and excited. I really get into my painting sometimes. So, again, I'm just kind of getting this a little darker than I want it to be. So, get this brush out here and just kind of getting it too light. That's light, dark. You know what I'm talking about. Okay. So, again, we want to continue to sort of blend this out on top. We don't want it to be too solid. I've got a little bit of that darker color on there. Alright, so just that bottom edge is really what we're looking for to be nice and solid. And I'm going to dab just a little bit of this orange in. Kind of soften up those edges a little. And again, guys, this is not a Bob Ross 30-minute get-it-done kind of painting. This is one we're going to take our time. Bob always said we had as much time as we wanted at home, and that we could add as many details as we wanted, so I am. Alright, so let's put a little bit of highlight under here. Get a little bit of our yellow coming back on here. Don't be afraid to keep reloading color. There's no trophy for the least amount of reloads during a painting. Okay, and again, guys, just that underneath is really what we're looking for. We really want that nice solid color to stand out. And the less paint you have on your brush, the faster you're going to have to be with the blending. Okay, so we really want this to indicate some bright colored clouds. Okay, so I'm just going to keep adding a little bit. And these little bristles are coming out on me. Gold darn it. I don't actually say gold darn it, but you don't want to cuss on YouTube because they'll shut your channel down. It's not as fun as it used to be. Okay, so I'm just going to get a couple indicators of some bottom edges going on here. Just really lighten these up a little bit. And don't worry about it being perfect. These are just clouds. Clouds are never really perfect. They actually kind of random. Okay, so I'm not going to have too too much of our yellow going on, just a little bit here and there. Kind of lighten those up every once in a while. There's somewhere that has a nice hit of some color to it. Okay. Well, I got this sort of lighter color. I'm just going to bring this out. Blend this up. I don't really want it to be too distinct. I want it to look far enough away. Alright, so we've got some good color going on here. Now, I'm going to bring this edge together just a tad. Just to blend it a little more. Again, clouds are never really hard line structures, so you want them to be sort of soft where those colors come together. Except for that one edge. That's all you're really looking for, is that bottom edge to be a distinct difference. There we go. And you can see I'm just sort of switching back and forth between the paintbrush, and this is just a dry brush. Give ourselves a little more indication of some distinctions and things going on up here. Okay. But I don't want to get it too bright. I want this bottom edge to really be the difference maker. Okay. So I just want to kind of bring this together a little bit more. That solid line. There we go. There we go. Just let that really come up in there. I'm just kind of going back and forth with a little bit of color and give it some dynamics in there. The clouds are multifaceted. I love them. It's getting a little too light over there, so we're going to blend that out. Okay. All right, we're getting a good sky going on, getting some good cloud situations happening. I'm going to get a little bit more on this far right side, just to give us a little pop here. So you really want that distinction of light and dark. Okay, now just sort of blend it up. Blend it up. It's amazing what you can do. Just play around a little bit. There's a lot of times in between these paintings, guys, that I do other paintings, and I'm really just playing with color and technique of, you know, different brushes and that sort of thing. I'm never really trying to stick to the same thing. I want to constantly try to learn some new things, and what does it do if I do this? What does it look like if I try it this way? That sort of thing. So challenge you guys to do sort of the same. Play around in between, and you know, another thing that I like to do is sometimes is just step back. You know, give yourself a good 10-12 feet from you and your painting, and let it look a little less perfect in your eye. Okay, so you step back, a lot of times you can see some of these variation pieces, and they look a lot better than you thought they did. All right, so don't give yourself too much of a hard time if it doesn't seem to be working your way and it doesn't come out exactly like you thought, and all the pieces of judgment that we put on ourselves. Okay, so we've got ourselves a good little skyline going on. I like it. It looks like it's got, you know, a little dynamic. We can throw in more and more as we go, and every little layer of light that we put over this dark really just creates another layer of clouds going on. Okay, so I don't want to get too much detail in the clouds. We want them to still kind of be far away and faded a little bit. So everything I think looks pretty good there. Okay, so we want to have some distinction between the clouds and where things are maybe happening even a little more in the background here. So we're going to start to lighten some things up. So I'm going to put that in the water there. And again, I'm copying a picture today, so I'm just using it as sort of an indicator of where things could be. It will not be an exact replica of it, so we're just having some fun playing with some techniques. So we want to sort of have a skyline, again, that separates so that there is a piece below the clouds before we get to the horizon line. And we need a real light color underneath for this to show that difference. Okay, so I'm going to put a real light color underneath and then come back with a few more clouds to allow us to, again, have that difference in the light-dark contrast. So I'm going to use a little bit of yellow and some white and come in here for a real light color yellow. And I'm just using this blending brush because it was already sort of dirty and had a little bit of water to it. Okay, so I don't want this right up against here. I don't want to kill this difference between the yellow and the dark that's already there. So again, this is going to be broken up by a layer of clouds that's sort of behind it. So I'm just going to indicate where some of these other clouds are showing through. Okay, and so we just want to have a little bit of some of this going on. And I want this to sort of fade down in here. And then the underneath is all going to be yellow. Okay. And so where these edges come up does not have to be solid. Okay. There can be a little bit of difference underneath. Because the sky is not even, guys. Okay. So I'm going to mix up some more of that white and yellow color. And I want it to be a fairly light yellow. So I really want this to be that pop of yellow. Okay, and we're going to lighten this up as we get over here, and can even make it a semi-straight edge, kind of indicating that there was a real strong cloud set in the back that was covering that up. And it takes a lot of paint, guys, so don't worry about if you run out of that same color. Just try to mix it back up the same color like you were using. Okay. And so this is really going to start to create this contrast in the sky for us where it's coming down and something intense is happening right there between that light and dark. So I'm just mixing right between the yellow and the white and just loading up lots of paint on here and distributing it out. Okay. And we're just going to kind of bring this down over here and let this color come all the way across. Okay, give us some more paint. And we're going to make this a solid color. So I don't want this to show through with this dark here. So I'm just getting some on there. A lot of times you've got to layer the paint to cover up a dark color from underneath with a lighter one on top. So you can see the more that I blend this out, the darker it looks underneath. So we might have to put some on and let it dry, and then we'll come back and add some more to it. It's a process. Painting is a process, guys, but as long as you enjoy the process, then you're winning. And that's what it really comes down to. Is the point of this is really just to have a good time and enjoy yourself. It does not have to be something that anyone else likes or that you plan to sell or you get compliments on or whatever. This is a way for you to relax in the world and just let go a little bit. You know, we live in a pretty serious world these days, and to me, the meaning of life is happiness. Everything that you do every single day is in search of happiness. And so if you can find an activity, an event that you enjoy in the act of doing, regardless of the outcome, that's what I call inspirations. Inspirations for happiness are very difficult to find these days. Okay? There are people who search their whole lives trying to figure out what they enjoy. And really, guys, try stuff. Maybe it's not painting. Maybe it's something else. Maybe you really like hiking or cooking or whatever. It's typically some kind of experience that gives you a feeling of happiness. Okay, and that's what I really want to focus on today, is you guys being able to just appreciate the process, because life is not a race to the end. We spend so much of our times trying to prepare for later that we sort of forget about the now. And so we really want to make sure that we're enjoying ourselves in the moments that we're in. You're not even guaranteed to get more of them. So we really want to make sure that we're trying things. Find what you like, what you don't like. You never know what that actually might be. It could be something very surprising. Recently started playing cornhole. If you don't know what cornhole is, you throw a beanbag at a board that has a hole in it, and you're trying to make all 4 of your beanbags in a hole. Pretty simple, but there's a lot to it, and I had no idea what I was doing the first time, but I said, hey, I'm just going to show up to this place that's doing cornhole, and I'll just learn from the people who are there. I don't do a lot of mechanical learning. I really enjoy hands-on. Get in there and experience the thing. Try it out. What does it feel like doing? And that's a lot of painting too. Is like I said, in between, I want to challenge you guys to test some things out. Try a little bit here and there and see what works, what doesn't, how the brush strokes work, how mixing the paint creates a certain color, and all those sorts of things. You'll come out with a better feel of what it takes to make that happen. So, okay, we've got a little bit of light color going on. I'm actually going to put in some even lighter color up here at this top area. So I really want this to come out much lighter over here. And again, I'm starting to pull paint off. So I'm going to probably have to let this dry in between episodes here for this to really get the effect that I want, because we've got such a dark color underneath there. So I'll just sort of blend this out and let that kind of relax. So we can come over here on the other side where we're going to add some more dark color over the top. And I want to do the dark, but I want it to be sort of a lighter bluish color. So we're going to come down here, and hopefully this yellow will dry fast enough that our blue doesn't really turn into green. And again, guys, I probably could have done more of this background color first before we did the clouds, but if you ever get something over the top of a thing that's supposed to be closer and it's supposed to look in the back, you can just repaint a little more of the close layer behind it, so, or on top of it, excuse me. That'll push it back. Okay, so we're working with a little bit bigger brush just to kind of cover some ground here, and I want, again, a lighter color over here, but I don't want it to be straight white. I really want it to be sort of a darkish blue with some light in it. Okay, so I'm going to make a real light blue color, and then we're going to throw some black. So this will immediately darken it, and it sort of makes it into a grayish color, which is not quite what I want. So I'm going to put some more blue in here, and you may have to play around with it back and forth a few times to get it to be the color that you really want. Okay, so I've got this blue in here. So it's a sort of a medium blue color. And I'm gonna come up here and just indicate some of those cloud colors, okay? I'm gonna just throw some of this in here and allow this to sort of come down a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna get a little dark in there, darken this up just a little bit. Put that in there and kind of dab it a little bit and give ourselves a little bit of a cloud indications. Okay, so I just want to kind of soften it up a little bit. I'm going to get a little white in there, lighten it up, throw a little more blue back in there. Yeah, there we go. Okay, And this light over the dark, guys, this is the things that really allow those differences to be seen in where things are. Okay? So we're just going to kind of blend this in a little bit. Nice soft indications of these clouds sort of rolling around up here and doing their thing. And I don't want to cover up all that good stuff going on up there with these darks and lights and that sort of thing, but we just want to sort of vary the colors and get some things going on in here. So you can see there's some lights and some darks, and I am going to throw a little bit of whites in there. So I just want this to be a little bit of that whitish color. I don't want it to be pure white, just a very light color. Okay, and again, we just want it to be an indicator of difference. We can have a little bit going on, have a little bit of some clouds going on in here, adding some little difference makers, and even come down to a little lighter color down here. Whatever you want to do, it's up to you. Okay. So I really want this to stay blended though, so I'm just going to loosen up that edge a little bit. They sort of look like waves in the sky almost. Okay, so I've almost got some little cloud things going on. I'm going to bring some of this over here just a little bit to break this up and fluff it into the sky a little bit. So again, guys, we're just creating indications. That's what I really love about this type of painting, is it's Impressionist. So it's not going to be perfect. There's not going to be an even exactness to what you're doing in here. Okay? So now I've got some of this lighter color on my brush. I just want to kind of play some of this in here in the in-between. And I don't want to cover up all this dark, okay? I really want this to keep some of that color in there, okay? But it takes some of that direct black look out of it. All right, that undercolor is so important in the way that this ends up coming out for everybody. Okay. So we can just indicate some colors going on and some clouds. Okay. And these little bits, little tiny pieces here and there. Okay, that's what's going to allow us to indicate those cloud lines. Okay, so I'm just going to blend this so it's not very distinct. Okay, and I do want a little bit more in the middle here of some of this indication of some brighter clouds going on. Alright, so this bright really starts to stand out now that we've got some of this darker color going on. Okay, so I'm going to add some of that same little bit over to the other side. Give us just a little bit. I don't want too much on there. Just a little bit over here. Okay, so same kind of thing. We're just going to add a little bit of something. And it may not look like there's much going on here, okay? And that's the point. We don't want it to be too distinct. Okay. I'm going to take my dry brush here and fluff this up just a little bit. And this is a real stiff bristle brush, so it can handle some pushing. Okay. So we're really just creating some indications going on up there that some clouds up in the above. Okay, so we've got a lot going on in here. I'm going to keep adding a few more dynamic pieces with some of this white that'll really make some distinctions. Okay, so I'm going to bring this in here and just a light touch. And this will make it look like there's really just a cloud right there in the front. Okay. Okay, nice and soft. Some of these are very, very light color, and some of them even have a little bit of yellow and white going on. Okay. So we're going to touch this right to the bottom of this. Just right on the bottom, and we're going to indicate a little bit of an opening. Okay, so maybe that sky just opened up a little bit and showed some of that color from the back. It's that tad bit there. A little bit going on same way on the other side. So we're going to make this looks dry. So I'm going to bring in a just straight solid color. Okay. And the reason I'm doing that is I really want that to have the look like there is something nice solid line of where that came together. Okay, and then we'll just sort of feather this in here and get a little bit of this lighter color going on in here. Okay, I just really didn't want it to be light or dark showing through, excuse me. So get just a tad bit more over here. And it's starting to pick up a little bit of that dark color that was already on my brush here. So again, I'm just going to tap that off and come back for a little bit more. This is some of the fun of it, guys. Really just playing back and forth in your color and what do you want it to look like. Beautiful. Yeah, and I really like these variations of light to dark. So we're going to keep working with some of that. And I'm going to make that back to a little bit more yellow. I don't like that color in there, so. And again, these variations are really what shows the difference. So, all right. So we got some yellow going on. We're going to come back to our bluish color we've been working on. And I'm just going to add in some clouds from the edge. Need a little more color running out. I'll make this that bluish color a little bit darker. So we're just about out of time for today, guys. I appreciate you hanging out with me. We're getting some more dynamics going on in our clouds. We're putting some light dark variations in here and really just showing some indications of things going on here. So we'll keep playing with this. We're going to come back and continue on with our painting. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next video.